Hey, if you could seriously leave a like, it helps me loads. I'm trying to grow my channel, and my goal is to get 20 likes for this video. If it helps you, share it with a friend to help me help you, help them, help my channel. Alright, I've gotten a couple of requests to do this topic since it's something everybody should kind of know when using shaders for their games. And today's topic is, what is the difference between Reshade and ENB? First off is ENB. It's developed by Boris Vorontsov. Now I probably butchered that, I apologize. The site goes on to describe ENB as, ENB series is a 3D graphic modification for games like Fallout, TES, Skyrim, TES, Oblivion, GTA, Deus Ex, and others. It works by modifying render function calls of the games and applying additional effects. It's divided to generic versions and exclusive. First category allows it to run at thousands of games. Not all effects will work, but you can try several versions of the mod to find the best suited. Second, exclusive types of the mod are game-specific versions which are developed to work with some games and rarely with the same game engine. Then we have Reshade, which is developed by Crossfire. Reshade is an advanced, fully generic post-processing injector for games and video software developed by Crossfire. Imagine your favorite game with ambient occlusion, real depth of field effects, color correction, and more. Reshade exposes an automated and generic way to access both frame color and depth information. Latter is automatically disabled during multiplayer to prevent exploitation, and all tools to make it happen. So we got two gigantic mouthfuls of text, and what does this all mean? Well, pretty much the same thing, with the exception that ENB has versions of itself specifically to run on certain games and or engines. Now, I went through browsing tons of forums and subreddits that give me a bunch of different opinions and data, but I only went with the stuff that was provided by people that actually program the shaders and know how generally each one works. I used this in conjunction with everything that I knew on the subject to create this video. So for ENB, starting off, we have a better depth of field and ambient occlusion. It's suited for a more per game basis. ENB has a much more advanced framework, and we'll come back to this. You can add weather presets to games such as Skyrim. You can even replace in-game effects with those from ENB. It's freeware because it's still owned by Boris. And it can utilize other effects through proxying. If you want to know more about proxying, I'm not going to cover it in this video. I will provide a link in the description. Now Reshade, on the other hand, it has better color correction. Color grading and effects are generally easier to implement in a workflow. More universal injectors, which means that injectors that work for one game should work just about the same for every other game. You have a better performance for effects. You have a much quicker setup time. It is open source as of January 1st, 2017 under the BSD 3-clause license. One thing to note that proxying is iffy at best, at least for me. I could never get it to work consistently. Now I personally use Reshade more than ENB simply because the content I work on doesn't like giving me access to depth effects like depth of field or ambient occlusion, and how I have my workflow set up, I can pump out a properly tweaked shader that I was just suddenly inspired to make in a few hours, and then I can upload to you guys. But I've used ENB for a few projects, and I have to say, while I get some exceptional results with Reshade, my results with ENB are nothing short of jaw-dropping when everything works properly. Notice that I say when everything works properly. You see, remember when I said that ENB had a more advanced framework? Well, this is both a huge pro and kind of a con for ENB. It provides this awe-inspiring toolkit to take your game's graphics to the next level, even so far as replacing outdated in-engine effects with its very own. Now remember how I said you could use other effects by proxying? Well, ENB can actually use Reshade for color correction and color grading as a proxied effect through one of its libraries. This allows for some pretty cool effects. This is really cool because you can actually take fixes that require injection and you can actually get widescreen and other fixes through the proxying while using ENB. The only issue that I've had so far is that whenever I go ahead and I proxy reshade through ENB, I usually have some sort of issues which causes me not to use reshade. I don't know if it was my current version of reshade, it was that particular game, it was that version of ENB. There gets to be a lot of variables when you start doing stuff like this. But that's as far as I'm getting into the subject on this video. This can provide some truly stunning experiences in some cases. But every once in a while, you end up with something that's just equivalent to a giant mess, and it just doesn't work properly. And that's because each version is supposed to be set up for each game. Sometimes updates for that game could cause those ENBs to not work properly or at all. Case in point, GTA 4, which has different ENBs that only work for certain versions of the game. However, my thoughts on how this all works together is this. If you want a quicker while still tailored experience that mostly affects color levels, light levels, and some contrasting, maybe with some sharpening effects, then reshade is definitely your tool. But if you need more advanced effects like ambient occlusion, depth effects, custom shaders, maybe replacing some in-game effects, I would definitely go with ENB. Each one is unique to their approach, giving them different specialization of sorts. Now they do overlap in some areas, like ENB supporting color grading and reshade supporting depth of field, bloom, and MXAO, but I still feel that reshade is better for color grading and ENB is better for more advanced effects. An important reason why I believe this to be true is typically on every game that text my PC, I saw better performance with reshade than with ENB. Like I stated before, the more advanced framework is both a pro and a con to ENB. When using simple color grading in games, I can see anywhere from a 5 to 10 frame per second disadvantage for ENB. This is a known issue, and the creator of ENB, Boris, has stated that it's simply the nature of how ENB works and how complex their injecting is. With all of this in mind, they're both very useful, and I have a lot of respect for both of the creators. I sincerely hope this helps you choose between the two of these shader injectors. If this video helps you, please leave a like. It helps my channel grow, and it helps you guys get better content. That's all for now, and I'll catch you guys in my next video.